How Tinubunomics is disappointing Nigerians as cost of living spikes. Nigeria's economy has been in the doldrum for years, paralyzed by an inefficient bureaucracy, political missteps, rising national debt, rampant corruption, and crime. Bola Tinubu has promised to end the malaise and double the annual rate of economic growth to 6% or more. Since succeeding Muhammadu Buhari in late May, he has scrapped costly fuel subsidies, ousted the central bank governor, and raised the exchange rate policy, effectively devaluing the currency, the naira. Tinubu's first moves excited investors but sparked public backlash over soaring food and transportation costs, an early warning of the mammoth task ahead of us in addressing Nigeria's myriad problems. What is wrong with the Nigerian economy? According to the World Bank, about 40% of the country's more than 200 million people lived in abject poverty, with half of adults underemployed or unemployed. Inflation climbed to an 18-year high of nearly 23% in June. Corruption is rife. Many state institutions are dysfunctional, and gunmen and Islamist militants have a free hand in much of the north of the country. The government spent 96% of revenue generated in 2022 servicing its loans. During Buhari's 8-year rule, the national debt increased sevenfold by about 77 trillion naira. Oil production, the lifeblood of the economy, hit a low in the late 2022, last seen in the 1980s. In June, the World Bank forecast that Nigeria's gross domestic product would grow by just 2.8% this year, barely keeping pace with its population growth, and far more slowly than is needed to make substantial progress in alleviating extreme poverty. What does Tinubu plan to have turn things around? His priorities, outlined in his inaugural address on May 29th, include a boosting production, improving access to affordability of electricity, simplifying a complicated exchange rate regime, and increasing investment in road, rail, and port infrastructure. He has pledged to use the money government spent on fuel subsidies, 10 billion last year alone, to improve health and education systems and create jobs. He also said he would hire more personnel to combat extremist violence and instability and invest in better military equipment. Within days of taking office, Tinubu abolished fuel subsidies that had been in place since the 1970s. Prices at the pump nearly tripled, sparking outrage. The president then called on lawmakers to approve 500 billion naira in spending to protect citizens from the impact. In mid-July, the government declared a state of emergency, allowing it to take extraordinary measures to improve food security and supplies, including clearing forests for farmland and improving access to fertilizers to boost agricultural production. A report by the humanitarian organization Mercy Corps illustrates how inflation has hit ordinary Nigerians hard. It found that food prices in Borno State rose 36% and transport cost rose 78% in a week after subsidies were cut, and that there were famines and incidents. The number of petty thefts increased. Why did Tinubu depose the central bank governor? Suspended by Tinubu in June, Nigerian Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele was blamed for a botched high-grade naira note replacement program that hampered day-to-day operations in the cash-dominated economy. Emefiele was subsequently arrested by the secret police and charged with illegal possession of a firearm, a crime punishable by a maximum of 5 years in prison. Emefiele denied any wrongdoings and said that he was the victim of a political witch hunt. Who else was sidelined? Tinubu has also suspended Abdulrasheed Bawa, the head of the country's anti-corruption agency, after being accused of serious allegations of abuse of office. The president has appointed a number of new staff and senior advisors, including some prominent technocrats. He has also appointed new chiefs of the Army, Navy, Air Force and Police. What happened to the Naira? The central bank announced changes to how the forex market operates, saying the Naira is allowed to trade freely until it reaches a new market-related level. Under Emefiele, the bank sold limited amounts of US dollars to companies and individuals on tightly controlled terms. The practice aimed at the bolstering the value of the naira and the country's foreign exchange reserves. Business complained that the system made operations difficult and discouraged investment. Many resorted to the black market, where the dollar traded more freely, albeit at a premium of around 60% over the official rate. After the changes were announced in June, the naira fell to a record low against the dollar, and the central bank intervened in the market to stem further losses amid concerns about the impact on inflation. While there has been some convergence between official and parallel market rates, the pegging has not eliminated the backlog in dollar demand, and unofficial suppliers of the greenback continue to charge a premium. What were the reactions to Tinubu's changes? Investors, economists, bankers, and multilateral lenders have long called for a change in exchange rate policy and more orthodox role for the central bank. They have unanimously welcomed the steps he has taken so far. While the rise in fuel and food costs have sparked outrage, most ordinary Nigerians have had little reaction to other measures, largely because their lives has not been directly affected. But Tinubu won February's presidential election with just 35.2% of the vote, and he needs to show his living standards are improving to win support for more politically controversial measures, with the support of William Close and Anthony Osei Brown. Well, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure to leave them in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe and to share this video with your family and friends.